Yeah, first off, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and I want to introduce you talk to Jim from Texas Scratch. How's it going today?
It's going very well, Ron. Nice to meet you. And here to talk about our new album, Texas Scratch.
So, getting right into it, you want to talk and let the fans know what is Texas Scratch and what is the sound and what you were trying to do with this album.
We didn't have a grand plan when we started. We just all convened to record our songs. The band consists of three guitar players. We have Mr. Vince Converse. There's myself, Buddy Whittington, drummer Jeff Simon, who lives in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and bassist Nathaniel Peterson. Vince is from Houston. I'm from Dallas, and Buddy is from Fort Worth. I guess the album really kind of reflects a lot of the stuff we grew up listening to when Buddy and I came of age back in the 70s. We were exposed to a lot of great guitar-driven music from our area. Of course, ZZ Top would probably have been the most prominent, recognizable name. They were beyond huge here in Texas, obviously. And this is, really the sound that came before Eliminator and the long beards and stuff, back when they were, wearing cowboy hats and just more of a straight boogie rock thing. So that was kind of our template.
And then whenever you were writing this stuff like that, I read that you all individually wrote all the songs and then came together in a very short period of time and had to just do it all together.
Yeah, we wrote, everything was composed. Everybody had written their stuff on our own, and then we went to the studio to record. There was no real pre-production. We just went in and worked up each song, and wrote an arrangement and recorded it. We did everything in about 5 days. Just the recording process, the mix and mastering took longer, but. We didn't have a huge vision. We just had our songs. We went in. It just reflects what we are and what we've listened to over the years.
Yeah. Especially like I said, listening to some of the songs, especially the ones that you wrote, I really liked the Trip Hammer. It had like that. It had that old timey, like you were saying, that 70s like blues rock sound to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I loved Johnny Winter growing up, and it's kind of had that same beat, that same groove that Johnny would use a lot. Of course, I liked Rory Gallagher and ZZ Top, and there was lots of other stuff that's we just threw in the blender, and it has that whole vibe happening.
Oh yeah, and then also I was listening to it, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. I was trying to figure out what was actually in the purple flask.
Yeah, that's what I used to call Crown Royal, because it's in that kind of purple velvety bag.
Yep.
I think I don't know. I don't remember where I came up with it, but it sounds like I'd probably smoked some weed and then thought, hey, that looks mountain flask. It has that kind of random, that random description to it. But that's what it is.
Oh yeah, I remember those bags. I still have a few of those bags that when I grew up as a kid, those bags. And then they had that one special edition I had a long time ago. It was like a box that came in, and it was all velvet box. And yeah, those like I said, those Crown Royal bags were great.
Yeah, you could use them for any, once it was gone, the bag would live on.
Yep. So then again, like you were saying, the three of you guys are from Texas. So, explain the music scene in Texas, growing up and stuff like that. Because there's so many iconic bands and musicians that come from Texas. Is it very competitive with how many good artists are from Texas, or are you guys all kind of very cool with each other, collaborated?
I think everybody's cool with each other. I don't, if there is any competitive, I guess everybody is. You have to be in some form to progress. You have to keep trying to get better. And sometimes, you will use somebody else as a yardstick or motivation to get better. But having said that, no, everybody's, real open. If I go to one of my friends is playing something, what are you doing, man? Can you show me that? Yeah, they'll always show you. But yeah, we're all trying, we're all in the same boat. We all got to row in the same direction.
Oh yeah. And then I read that you've done some stints with George Thorogood. Talk a little bit about working with him and having the chance to work with a guy like him, because he's such an iconic musician himself.
Yeah, that's been great. I'm still working with him. I'll be starting my 25th year coming up in January. So that's quite a milestone. I mean, that's longevity in any job or career, especially in the music business. I'm real grateful and fortunate to have that circumstance, and it's been it's just been a real blessing to get to play with George and then tour and record and travel and meet my heroes and idols. And yeah, I mean, it's I never would have dreamed it would have happened, but it did happen. I actually saw this George with the Rolling Stones back in 1981 in New Orleans. And if you had told me then, you'll be in that band one day, I'd never been able to figure out at that time how that would have happened, how it would have come to pass, in other words.
So how did you end up getting hooked up with George?
I had a band. This was probably in 1990, and I was based in Dallas, and we'd gone to Memphis to play at just some little bar called Huey's. And George and his band were making a record about 2 blocks away at Ardent Studios, and they came in at the end of a day of recording to eat and drink, and they dug what we were doing. And George started the night in the back of the room, and by the time we finished, he was like standing 6 feet in front of me watching me, which was kind of freaking me out at the time. But he was really paying attention, because we talked after he played, and he was bringing up a lot of very detailed things about my show that only somebody who was truly paying attention would know. And he said, "I'm going to tell my producer about you. He'd really love you. You guys remind me of our band when we first started." So he did. He told his producer, Manning, who was based in Memphis and had worked with everybody from Otis Redding to Led Zeppelin. He did all those ZZ Top records that we revered growing up. And long story short, I had a band a couple of years later and sent Terry a demo, and he agreed to do our record, and he consequently signed us to his label, and we went out on tour opening for George. I had the same management as George for 4 or 5 years, and that kind of ran its course by late 90s, and then at that point they were looking for a second guitar player and asked if I'd join. So I've been juggling several different projects for the last quarter century. Yeah. But it's fun. Have it any other way.
Oh yeah, and then like you were saying, being able to work with such great artists and stage. What has been your favorite? Some of your favorite musicians that you've had the chance to work with.
Well, I mean, we did some couple of stadium shows with AC/DC in 2002, and they were a big influence on me. When I was young, growing up, I saw the band with Bon Scott a couple of times, and it was really cool. So that was a dream come true. And getting Jeff Beck coming into our show, man, I don't even know. Getting to meet Bob Dylan and Neil Young and people like that, Robert Plant. Like I said, I'm just really grateful. It's because at heart I feel like a fan and still like a kid, when I meet these people, even though I'm out doing the same shows maybe. Yeah. You never part of your identity, and I'm not sure I want to.
What about any musician that's still around that was an inspiration or iconic that you haven't worked with that you would like to work with?
Well, you mean by working with, maybe doing shows with, like playing on a bill with, like the Rolling Stones or somebody like that. I'd love to meet Paul McCartney. Never met any of the Stones, but Keith Richards would be probably somebody whose hand I'd like to shake, and just a bucket list thing for me. I'm a big Stones fan.
And what about like instead of going on stage with someone iconic, you being a seasoned player, are there any younger bands that you would like to kind of give that push to?
Well, I think they're giving me the push these days. There's some really good young band. Tyler Bryant, the Shakedown. He's from Texas, but he's based out of Nashville now, and he's fantastic. I like the group Larkin Poe a lot. In fact, Tyler is married to one of the members of that group, Rebecca, and they're wonderful. Damon Fowler group out of Florida. Danielle Nicole Band out of Kansas City. And I always forget, as soon as I finish telling all this stuff after the podcast is over, I think it's funny. I know it's going to happen again. Younger guy from my area called Jason Elmore with a group called Hoodoo Witch. They're really good. There's Matt Tedder is a player from Fort Worth, young guy, but these guys are inspiring me,
Yeah.
To step it up, and not get complacent.
I was gonna ask that too. With the younger generation, and someone like you said, you've been working with George for over 25 years, which is like you said, the industry is really tough. What kind of words or inspiration can you talk about for the younger generation to be able to stay in a music that's so back and forth with this industry?
I think I don't know that I could say anything except just try to weather the storm, because there's going to, there's often a lot of developments or things that happen, and relationships may crater out. It's hard to maintain friendships and any type of relationship if you're constantly traveling. But if you're going to do it, you will, and you just have to continue to believe in yourself. I mean, it's kind of a cliche, but I really wouldn't know any other way to put it.
Yeah. Another one I always ask too was, I always talk about the pandemic, because a lot of bands were not able to play, not able to tour. Some of them fought it as a curse. A lot of it was a blessing, because they haven't been able to had that much time to spend with their family. What was your take on that? That time where the music kind of stopped for a little while.
Yeah, I never had that. I was thinking about that earlier. I've never had that much time as an adult without work or activities, and it was really hard for me for a while. And then I got to like it, and I've been doing this a long time, so the slower pace kind of agreed with me. And I just, it's a time to do some personal growth maybe, and write and, record songs. And maybe tend to some other areas of your life that get neglected, because that does happen. If you're playing music full time, other things get neglected. Just, adulting, adult responsibilities, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then a question I always ask, which is like a kind of tough question, sort of like picking kids, but if you had to pick one song that you wrote in your career and put it in a time capsule and civilization finds it years later, what song would you want them to hear?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I like the album I did, Tijuana Bible, so I'd probably say that title track. I think that's probably the most cohesive thing I've done. But yeah, that song, to me, it's like a song that Billy Gibbons missed. It's got a real ZZ kind of AC/DC vibe to it. And the topic itself, it just seems like something Billy missed. But it's concise, it's simple, and you're in and out in like 4 minutes. So I kind of like, as I've gotten older, I like stuff that's more like haiku. It's just more, it's simple, it's brief, it's to the point. There's not a lot of maybe less jamming, more song.
Mm-hmm. So now, like I said, I've asked a lot of bands this and stuff like that, especially with this, because I'm not quite sure with this type of genre of music. how well does it fare over in like Europe and stuff like that? You guys, how's been the response for the Texas style music in other countries?
Oh man, it's always been probably stronger there than in the States. There's always been a great audience. I've been back. Well, I went back with George, but I haven't been back with my probably since 5 years. But it's a real strong market for blues rock, and if you're from Texas, it helped for some reason. Yeah, that's just the people started going to shows back in the 60s and 70s, or would still go to the shows. I mean, it's of course there's attrition as time goes on, but yeah, you notice the audiences were getting older, more gray ponytails and stuff. But they still come out and they still buy the music and support the band. So yeah, it's like going to Europe, like Belgium and the Netherlands, Germany. UK is good too, but I've always had a good time there.
Oh yeah. And then a question I always ask too, especially when it comes to holidays, depending on what holidays are around the corner. So since Christmas is coming up, is there a favorite Christmas movie you like to watch?
Bad Santa.
Bad Santa?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there is actually a beautiful message beneath all that filth and vile language, and
yeah.
But I love. I like that kind of irreverent stuff. I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life all the way through. It's almost like a badge of honor that I had. It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show. Never seen it because in high school my girlfriend had that soundtrack and played it incessantly to the point where I vowed then, 45 years ago, I'm never going to see this movie. So I still haven't. But yeah, Bad Santa is my answer.
Yeah, I can honestly say I don't think I've ever watched It's a Wonderful Life from beginning to end. I don't think ever in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I'll flip around, like if I'm changing channels, it may be on, and I go, oh, I can't watch this. It's almost like I'd rather have the shock value of saying I've never seen that, and people like are stunned.
Yeah.
So I like to honestly be able to say that.
Well, do you have any plans for 2024 that you can talk about?
I mentioned Tyler Bryant earlier. He and I recorded a song called Dusty Groove that I'm going to release through his label. We're going to do a 7-inch vinyl, so we've got a few more songs to do. So I'm looking at that. That'll probably be in the spring or summer. And just a full year of touring with George Thorogood, and I'm always trying to write and record, and going to promote this Texas Scratch album. We have some shows coming up, and we're going to look to do some bigger stuff in the summer once I kind of have my tour schedule with George sorted out.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were going to plan on doing any touring for this album. I know it's kind of tough sometimes when you have musicians that all have other day jobs and other bands and stuff like that, to try to get everybody that's going to be their schedule clear.
Yeah, and this band is, geographically we're all spread out. Vince is in Denver. Jeff, the drummer, is in outside of Philadelphia in Langhorne, PA. Sadly, the bass player Nathaniel, who was living in Italy, passed away this year. So may he rest in peace. And but it's down to Buddy and I right now. We're just doing some North Texas gigs around the DFW area, because we're only like 35 miles apart.
Okay.
In terms of where we live. So in that regard, just as a stopgap, we're doing that right now.
All right. Well, anything else you want to say to the fans before I let you go?
I guess not. I would just urge you to purchase this record. It's makes a great stocking stuffer. Still time for Christmas. You can go to Amazon to buy it, or Corto Valley Records. You can purchase it there. And if you want to stream or download, it would be all those usual platforms: iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, that sort of thing.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hopefully, whenever you come through town, whether it's through George or through the other bands, hopefully you come through Baltimore area, and we'll be able to actually formally meet instead of these Zoom interviews.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely. You've got a place on the guest list.
Awesome. Well, you have a good rest of your day, man.
Well, thanks, Ron. Take care, brother.
You
Merry
too, man.
Christmas.
You too.